The Great Depression was a tragic time in American history, one that will always be remembered for the devastation and troubles it caused for much of the Western world. The Great Depression started in 1929 on October 24th. This was the day the stock market crashed. This day became known as Black Tuesday. According to History.com, on this day only, stock investors traded 16,410,030 stocks. Investors had lost faith in the downturning economy, therefore hurriedly sold their stocks. The dramatic downfall of the economy devastated many people in the United States of America. PBS.org states, in March of 1929, more than 3.2 million people were unemployed. People took whatever they could find to construct makeshift homes. The homeless community built shantytowns called Hoovervilles. They were called this because many blamed the president at the time, Herbert Hoover, for the Great Depression. The Depression impacted the lives of many. However, some people, like Catherine Brady, did not suffer from extreme poverty. Catherine Brady was born in Detroit, Michigan on June 12, 1928. She was practically born into the Great Depression. She was only a baby when this time period began. She grew up with a family of 2 brothers, 1 sister, and a mother and father. Catherine started off her education at a Catholic school and continued on that path for 12 years. 1 year after she was born, the stock market crashed, signaling the beginning of the Great Depression. On October 24th, Black Tuesday, the Great Depression sent people into a panic. Catherine's family was not affected like others. Her father, Joseph Stocker, was a builder and he worked for himself. When the Great Depression hit, his income was drastically reduced. No one could afford to buy homes, so he had no business. The Stocker family was lucky to have savings from the money Joseph previously made, so they were financially stable for the most part. Catherine's life during this time was different from others in her situation. She was extremely lucky to have enough money to be able to attend school, pay for piano lessons, food, and supplies. Catherine said she did not personally know anyone who was broke and living on the streets. However, they heard about people in extreme poverty in the newspaper and their devastating stories. NPR.org tells the stories of survivors from the Great Depression. One of these people includes Henry Martinez. He lived with a family of 13 children, which was especially hard surviving long cold winters in Chicago. He remembered that in the winter, they all huddled around the pot-belly stove to keep warm. Not only was the cold a problem, but the lifestyle then was very unsanitary. Garbage was thrown into the alley to rot, which caused tuberculosis. When Martinez looked back on this time, he remembers how horrible it was. Compared to this, Catherine lived a normal life for the most part, attending Catholic school and spending time with her friends. Catherine especially remembers that a movie cost 10 cents, only a dime. Meanwhile, the government was trying to restore America's economy. Herbert Hoover, the president who was elected in 1929, believed that the government should not directly get involved in the economy. In 1933, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected president. He was known for his calm attitude and his optimism. Roosevelt quoted, "The only thing to fear is fear itself." He took immediate action to the economic downfall. He began speaking publicly over the radio in a conversational tone. These talks were called fireside chats. They reassured and comforted worried Americans. In his first 100 days in office, administration passed the legislation that strived to provide more jobs in the agricultural and industrial fields. Another time period that Catherine lived through was World War II. This immediately followed the Great Depression, beginning in 1939. USHMM.org states how Germany started World War II by invading Poland on December 1st, 1939. Britain and France responded to this invasion by declaring war with Germany on September 3rd. War broke out in Poland, signaling the beginning of the Second World War. Catherine Brady, still young at the time, remembered hearing about the Nazis in school and in the newspapers. Being at war was a scary time for everyone, but Catherine did not think she was at any risk. Being the kid that she was, she did not worry much about the possibilities of danger. At home, though, families had a few precautions. In most houses, including Catherine's, they had blackout curtains that were used to keep homes dark if enemies were to invade. One thing that Catherine specifically remembers from the war was the bombing of Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor, according to History.com, was when the Japanese flew hundreds of fighter planes into Hawaii and attacked the American naval base there. On December 7, 1941, the Japanese dropped bombs on Pearl Harbor, destroying about 20 American vessels and hundreds of planes. The attack killed nearly 2,000 soldiers and sailors. A day later, President Roosevelt declared war with Japan, bringing America into World War II. Catherine remembers that Sunday, being at home and hearing the dreadful news. One other significant time Catherine remembers from the war was when it finally ended. It was a long and devastating 6 years. She recalls going to downtown Detroit, and everyone was singing and dancing and having a great time. All of the people were filled with joy and rejoicing for the end of a terrible time period in U.S. history. After the Great Depression and World War II, Catherine continued on her education journey and attended the University of Detroit for 2 years. She met her future husband Robert Brady, a war veteran who was in the Air Force. Robert was co-pilot of a B-29 Flying Fortress called the Raiden Maiden II, based on Tinian Island as part of the 468th Bomber Group. Catherine and Robert got married in 1950. The new couple lived in Detroit, Michigan, when they were first married, then Bryn Mawr and Wayne, Pennsylvania, from 1955 to 1965. Catherine and Robert moved to Franklin Lakes, New Jersey, and had 6 children. Overall, Catherine lived a good life, got a good education, and has a wonderful family. Catherine was practically born into the Great Depression and lived through World War II. Her life during this time was different from most people's lives in her situation. She was extremely lucky to be able to go to school and have a plate full of food every day. This time period dramatically affected many people's lives and left Catherine with many stories to tell. She experienced 2 major events in our world's history, and fortunately, she has not been affected by any traumatic occurrences since then. Catherine's life went from tragedy during the Great Depression and World War II to a life filled with great joy.